Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about the story of Aeschylus's great plays, the trilogy known as the Oresteia. So the Oresteia begins at the end of the Trojan War, where the Greeks have successfully defeated the Trojans and burned their city and taken their women as the spoils of war to bring them back to their home cities. It comes in the context of a curse that was well known to any Athenian theatergoer, the House of Atreus. So Atreus is an ancient king of the Peloponnese, of the city of Argos, which is near where Sparta is in the Peloponnesian Peninsula. And it comes from a conflict. This curse arises from the conflict between two brothers, Thyestes and Atreus. Thyestes seduces Atreus' wife, who in return, Atreus conspires to kill Thyestes' children, two of his children, cook them and serve them in a feast, in a pie, to their father. And this horrific act creates a curse that is passed down generation to generation. Atreus' son, Agamemnon, who is the great leader of the Greek army, he is stuck before the Trojan War. All of the Greek ships are waiting to sail to Troy. And Agamemnon has this fleet of ships that is stuck in their harbor because they can't get a good wind to travel. And a priest comes from his city and says, well, I know that the only way for the gods to create a favorable wind is for you to sacrifice your daughter. In this case, his daughter's name was Iphigenia. And Agamemnon struggles with whether to do this, and then ultimately chooses the glory of his political and military leadership over the love of his daughter, and sacrifices her, kills her. And this, of course, causes enormous distress from his wife, the child's mother, whose name is Clytemnestra. And Clytemnestra, his queen, while he is gone, becomes the lover of his cousin Aegisthus, who is the son of Thyestes. And they plot to take revenge on Agamemnon once he returns home to Greece after the Trojan War. So in this case, the chorus of the first play is a chorus of elders that speak as the voice of the establishment of the city, and it begins with this note of potential reconciliation. Well, we thought that what you did was wrong, sacrificing your daughter, but we're willing to forget that. Those times are past. And they see that Agamemnon has done another audacious act. He has brought back a woman from Troy named Cassandra, who is gifted with the ability to prophesy, to see the future. But in exchange for this gift, has also been cursed that people do not believe her prophecies. And so she sees what's going to happen, including her own death. But she is not able to get anyone to believe that disaster is just around the door. In what seems to be a moment of great victory, disaster is coming again. Clytemnestra lays out a red carpet, a symbol of kingly power, of almost divine power. The king pretends to hesitate, but then because he doesn't want to seem too disrespectful of the gods, but ultimately he accepts to walk on the red carpet, enters the palace, after which his wife Clytemnestra, with the support of her lover Aegisthus, ensnares Agamemnon in a robe, stabs him to death. And she says at the end of the play, "The sinner dies. You have reached the truth at last." And so here we see the law of fate, the morality from the age of the Greek warlords, that if you sin, you will die. That is the moral system of archaic Greece. And at the end of the first play. She says, well, this is it. The cycle of violence will end. Leave us forever and oppress some other house. But of course, the cycle of violence cannot be stopped by violence. And so the second play, the koiphoroi, in English, the libation bearers, those who bring offerings to a god. The second play begins at the tomb of Agamemnon, the dead king, where the prince, his son Orestes, who had been living and studying in another city called Phocis, who had been away from his home a long time, comes back to his home city to see that there's a tomb and that his father has been killed. But he doesn't yet know exactly why or how. He leaves as an offering 2 locks of his own hair, and then goes and hides as he sees a bunch of libation bearers, a group of women bearing sacrificial wine, who are coming to pay tribute to the dead king at his tomb, including Agamemnon's daughter, who is Orestes' sister, who he hasn't seen in many years. And Electra comes with a chorus of libation bearers. In this play, the chorus is the libation bearers, the assistants to Electra. Reverence for royal power unquestioned. Now success is men's god. And so we see kind of a new moral paradigm about rule and nobility that is replacing the old law of nature in this second play. Electra finds the locks of hair. This is hair that looks like my hair. And then realizes that this is Orestes. Orestes must be nearby. And the brother and sister have a tearful reunion. She then tells the story of how their mother has killed their father. And Orestes is visited by the god Apollo, who explains that if he does not avenge his father, he will be held in disgrace and dishonor by all men. And so Orestes is now in a position where he is being asked, not commanded directly, but told that there will be consequences if he doesn't answer the responsibility of sons to avenge the death of their fathers. But in order to avenge his father, he has to kill his own mother. Will he do it? So he and his great friend Pylades goes to the palace in disguise. They pose as strangers. They tell Clytemnestra and Aegisthus that Orestes has died, even though Orestes is there right in front of them. The emotional intensity, the drama and suspense rises throughout the second play. Orestes, we can tell that his will is wavering of whether he will actually be able to go through with this act of murdering his own mother. At one point, he hesitates. He confesses to his good friend Pylades that he doesn't know whether he can do it. And Pylades reminds him, Apollo's words, what Apollo said, use falsehood if you want, like you can disguise yourself if you want, but my word, the word of the god, shall not prove false. Right? So again, we see that we're in a different moral paradigm where those with power can give commands, and those commands must be followed. This is the moral paradigm of the second play. Orestes confronts his mother in one of the most horrifying scenes in literature. She begs for her life by baring her breast and saying, will you stab this breast that gave you life? And Orestes is able to overcome his fear and doubt and avenge his father by stabbing his mother to death. Leads to a briefly triumphant moment where he has successfully achieved what he thinks that the gods required of him, which is to avenge his father. But very quickly, he has what we would call a nervous breakdown. He is visited by these visions of these shrieking demons called the Furies, the Erinyes in Greek, that only he can see, and that now follow him wherever he goes, shrieking, yelling, screaming at him, and he gets no relief and no escape. And so this is the end of the second play, and the spectators are left asking the question, is there anything that humans can do to stop the cycle of violence? Or will one murder keep leading to another and another and another? So this is where we are at the end of the second play. And we ask you to read the third play, The Eumenides, for class. And we look forward to discussing it in class. Happy reading.